Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the September 2020 meeting of Triangle Association of Freelancers. We have a wonderful guest speaker this evening, Susan Emshwiller, who is a screenwriter and an instructor at North Carolina State University. I'm going to read Susan's bio right now, and then we're going to turn it over to her for her presentation, Cinematic Storytelling Techniques for All Writers. Susan Emshwiller is a produced screenwriter, filmmaker, published playwright, and short story writer. For years, her quote, day job was as a set director, often working with Robert Altman. Publications include the Magazine of Fantasy and Science Fiction, Dramatists Play Service, Play Scripts, Furious Gazelle, Independent Ink Magazine, Gone Lawn, and Shala Studios Anthology, and Smoky Blue Literary and Arts Magazine. She lives in Durham and teaches screenwriting at North Carolina State University. Susan, turning it over to you.
All right, thank you. Thank you for inviting me, and hello, everybody. So I'm gonna try and blast through a ton of stuff in a short amount of time. And it may feel a little scattered, but since it's so many different things that screenwriting has that can help all sorts of writing, I just want to kind of blast into it. Now, I did put in the chat, I'll do it again right now, a link to a Google Drive. This is it's the best way for me to be able to show you clips. So if you can have that kind of standing by on the side of your screen open, then we can watch clips together with everybody muted, and then we can, then I'll explain something about them. So we're going to be talking about exposition, dialogue, reaction, setup and payoff, and shot screen sizes. And there may be clips that have offensive language, or there may be a host that has offensive language, so I apologize for that. I'm going to dive right into dialogue. I would like to share with you all right, now I'm disabled from sharing. Liz, could you turn me into a host again? Let's see if that, let's see if it works now. Yes, it does, thank you. Okay, so one of the things can everybody see my thing? Cool. So one of the things that I have on this page are a lot of film clips. We're not going to see all of these. We would be here till 10 o'clock, but they're all very short. I use these for my class, but I also put in the notes for my talk and for some little things. We're going directly to Waiting for Godot. I just want to let you know I'm going to leave these film clips up here, and you can go into them and see all the ones that I might have alluded to, but we didn't have time to show. So let's just make this a touch bigger. This is from Waiting for Godot, Samuel Beckett, and I want to just show you an example of what I think is really great kind of rhythm and repetition talking. Vladimir and Estragon are the characters in this, and Estragon says, funny, the more you eat, the worse it gets. We're right here. With me, it's just the opposite. In other words, I get used to the muck as I go along. Is that the opposite? A question of temperament, of character. Nothing you can do about it. No use struggling. One is what one is. No use wriggling. The essential doesn't change. Nothing to be done. So that little section there is a great example of his rhythm. And then he does it again later in the play. I assure you, it would be an occupation, a relaxation, a recreation, a relaxation. Try, you'll help me. I will, of course. And lastly, what do we do now while waiting? While waiting, we could do our exercises, our movements, our elevations, our relaxations, our elongations, our relaxations to warm us up, to calm us down. Off we go. And you'll notice that we have a character, Esgron, that keeps saying our relaxations in both pieces. So it's just something that you might want to hop into. Let me get out of this. There. Another one I wanted to talk about is reacting to dialogue, if you have a character that says something bad dialogue, I mean, I think we're all guilty of that at some time, of writing it. And so everybody go to the Birdman dialogue. And if I mute myself, you won't hear my thing, but we'll all look at it at the same time, and then I'll come back. Okay, so with that one, the thing is, when I saw that movie and I heard him say, "You're like a wonderful mess, a candle burning at both ends," I thought, oh my God, that's horrible dialogue. And then the next line is her saying, "I'm glad you're an actor and not a writer, because that's just horrible, what you just said." So that's the fun thing, is that we're allowed to actually call our characters out, say, what the, that's horrible what you just said. There's another example that I have here, Ocean's 11, and I'm not going to go have you watch that. It's very short, but it's fun. We'll just pop over to the script of that, Ocean's 11, and you'll see that a character says, "Because yesterday I walked out of the joint wearing my entire wardrobe, and you're cold decking Teen Beat cover boys, because the house always wins. You play long enough, never changing the chicks. The house takes you, unless when that special hand comes, you bet big, and then you take down the house." A beat, Rusty smiles. "You've been practicing that speech, haven't you?" "Yeah, a little." "Did I rush it?" "It felt like I rushed it." So, that's a fun thing for readers to have, is to have somebody call somebody on, their performance or their how they write something. Okay, so let's see. Another thing I wanted to talk about is having people say very jargon loaded language, and we don't have to understand it as an audience. You can dump things on people as long as we feel that the character understands. This is from Man in the White Suit. The character that Alec Guinness plays talks about, "I think I've succeeded in copolymerization of amino acid residues and carbohydrate molecules, both containing ionic groups." I mean, I don't know what that means. The character he's talking to doesn't know what that means, but it's important for us to get a chance to feel like he knows what it means. So don't ever feel like you can't, that you have to explain everything, as long as the person that's saying it understands it. I wanted to talk quickly about dialogue that is often dialogue is like ask a question, answer a question, ask a question, answer a question, talk about the thing. But people like Aaron Sorkin and David Mamet, they weave it in a way so that you're listening and then you're responding to something, but then you respond to something you heard earlier while you were talking. So I want you guys to hop in to Glengarry Glen Ross, which is a David Mamet piece. And take a look at this Glengarry Glen Ross dialogue. Okay. Okay, so with that one, we got one character that's kind of really trying to agree with the other character. And there's a nice thing that happens, if you noticed it, in Glengarry Glen Ross right here. There it is. We have the character saying, whoops, a little too big. So they kill the goose, and a man's worked all his life have got to, that's right, cower in his boots. And then Aaron now says cower in his shoes. He's trying to fill it in. He's trying to, you know, guess what the person is going to say. So he says shoes simultaneously as Moss says boots, and then he has to correct himself. So just think about, you know, the people are trying to influence or trying to agree with, and they're not always right. And that makes for a fun dialogue. And then I just want to show you one more clip, which is from the movie Training Day. And this is one which the character that Denzel Washington plays is so unlike any of what I expect you and I would be like. You know, you get a question and you get a hello, you're not even trying to be normal. You're trying to keep the guy off guard. So take a look at this Training Day film. Okay, so obviously that character is just trying to keep the other younger guy totally off guard. Everything he says, he's getting questioned, or he's not allowed to talk. He's not allowed to get breakfast. So think about having characters that aren't pleasant, that aren't helpful, like we all try to be. And now, Sandy McKendrick, he was my teacher at Cal Arts. He did The Man in the White Suit and the Sweet Smell of Success. And he had a really great thing to say. And I thought it was very helpful. And I try to remember it all the time, which is, he said, if your audience or the reader is going to ask something, if they're going to question something, if something doesn't feel quite right, make sure you have a character that poses that question. You don't have to answer it. You just have to pose it. That means that you, as the writer, are on the ball and that you know that they need it. They are wondering that. So it's kind of like if you go, why would somebody actually go in that room when they know that there's a monster in there? Maybe you have the character go, oh my God, why would I go in this room if I know a monster's in there? So, you know, you just want to pose the question. You don't ever have to answer it. And I think it's a very good thing if you feel like you have something that the audience is going to really go, not sure about that. Just pose the question. That means that you know that they're thinking that, and it alleviates their worries. Jumping to exposition. So we know that exposition is what we need to tell the audience in order for them to understand the story. And sometimes that can get really boring, or it might bog down the story, but it's important facts for the students to know, the reader to know. So there's a guy, Blake Schneider, who wrote Save the Cat. And he says he learned about a thing called the Pope in the pool. You layer something on that is unusual, like in a screenplay, there was a scene where they were talking about exposition, but it happened to take place in the Vatican, and the Pope was swimming. And so it was like, wow, everybody's going, wow, I didn't know the Pope had a pool and that he doesn't always have to wear his costume. And so it layered something on the exposition. I'm not going to show it to you, but there's a clip in there from The Big Short, which is exactly this. You're talking about huge financial terms, that I don't know, that only stockbrokers know. And it's hard to understand the movie without knowing those terms slightly. So they just cut to Margot Robbie in a bubble bath, and she explains it, and she's drinking champagne. And so it's like layering this whole other thing on top as almost a joke to Blake Schneider, saying, yeah, it doesn't matter what you say if you have something interesting going on. And I wanted you guys to see one scene from Saving Private Ryan. Spielberg is really great at making his exposition have a layer on top of this. And this is Saving Private Ryan. They're searching for Private Ryan right now and haven't been able to find him. And so let's go to Saving Private Ryan, the one that says Deaf Jitters, okay? And we'll take a quick look at that. Okay, so if you heard the stuff about the map and you didn't have, if it was just a character pointing, just a character pointing at the map and saying, you know, this is a very important bridge and this is why we need to protect it and Rommel is trying to get over. That's like maybe important stuff so we know why it's, but it's so boring. And when I saw this movie, I was like, as probably you guys, you go, oh my God, they're all concerned about how he's, is the captain terrified and is he cracking up when his hand is shaking? So we have a layer on top of it that makes it very poignant and very moving as opposed to just exposition. So I think there are three types of exposition. One where everyone doesn't know and the audience. And so we have to tell everyone. I'm not going to show you that, but I have a clip from Papillon, the old one with Steve McQueen. And it's the whole prison being told the rules. So everybody doesn't know, and now they're being told, and the audience is being told. The most common exposition situation is when a newcomer doesn't know. So somebody's joined a new job, or they came to a new school, or they're in a new family. And the example I have that you can look up later is The Godfather, where the character Kay, played by Diane Keaton, is asking her fiance about the family. She sees, you know, ooh, who's that scary guy over there? And so we get the introduction of the family by someone telling some newcomer. And the hardest one to do is where the characters all know, but the audience doesn't know. So there's a play, Carnage, Gods of Carnage, that was turned into a movie called Carnage. And everybody knows what happened. So why would they say it to us? And so they created a concept, which is very short to look at. This is Carnage of why they might tell this exposition that the audience needs to know, but that everyone else actually knows. So take a quick look at Carnage. So in that case, they had the device of typing out a legal thing explaining what happened. And so we get to know that there was an altercation between the two sons. And of course, they would have no reason to say that. So that's the harder thing to do. And in this form here, I have The Quiet Place. This is just PDF of, because I wasn't able to get anything from the film. That film is a monster film where there are creatures that attack, alien creatures that attack because they can hear any kind of infinitesimal little sound. So the characters have been living with this for a while, and they're not going to say, oh, don't forget, don't make any sound. First of all, they can't talk, but we need to know as the audience. So what they did was they had the character go into his study where he had pictures and trying to figure out what to do. He writes creature, survives, the creature's blind, attacks sound, has armor, how many in the area, 3. We get that information. We see the newspapers lying around. They can hear you. It's sound, stay silent, stay alive. You are on your own, remain safe. get underground. So that's another example of a situation where we're told something that everybody else knows. I'm going to dive right into reaction. I think reaction is, if there's anything that I think is the most important thing I can impart 100% across the board in everything, it's reaction. We need reaction in order to know what we, the audience or the reader, are supposed to feel. I have edited things where I've taken out the reactions. And so you may see something that you go, oh, that's kind of horrible, or that's wonderful. But when you're watching it on a film or reading it in a book, it's hard to feel if we don't cut to a person going, or you know, we just don't know what we're supposed to feel. So reaction to me is the most important thing. If you watch sports ever, if they ever have sports again, you see people running across do a touchdown, and they go, touchdown. And then what if they didn't cut to the crowd? Or what if they didn't cut to the other team going, or that team going like this, or, you know, people slamming the football down? You go, okay, so I guess we got another point. I just don't feel that great about it. Why is that? I was reading an article in the New York Times today that was about a person that was misdiagnosed. And the article was going on, she was feeling really bad, and then she threw up, and she was so worried she couldn't live the way she wanted to. And I was like, oh yeah, I really want to know what happens. And they got to the end, they found what it was, and they said, now she's doing better. I was like, I feel let down, because I needed to have her reaction, because I had her reaction the whole time of how bad she felt. I needed her to say, and now I feel so much better. I'm able to do this and that. And I was like, they screwed up that article. So I want to show you some things of my edited version where I took out reaction shots, and then the restored ones. So we're going to go to share screen again. We'll go back to that Google document, and we're going to go to Susan Boyle. Don't look at the one that says reactions. Look at the one that says edited. Now this is going to sound just horrible because it's a song, and then I only cut the parts of her singing. So if you don't want to hear it, just mute that sound. But just look, you know, you'll see her doing her best on the stage singing. But what does it mean? So do the one that says edited. Okay, so obviously that was kind of hard to watch, but the interesting thing about, if you go to the one above it, the Susan Boyle reactions, this is the restored version. And you'll notice at the beginning, everybody is very dismissive of this woman. The reactions are all to tell a story. They are dismissive, and then it changes. So let's look at this Susan Boyle reactions. Okay, so you can see that the first thing you don't feel anything, and then the second one, it's all about first. It's almost a story, and I'm sure that they orchestrate it that way. You know, very dismissive, and then that changes. I want to show you another one, which is The King's Speech, a great movie, The King's Speech. K. All right, so we're going to look at the edited a version of that. This is the king trying to do his first public speaking over the radio, and he has a terrible stutter. So let's take a look at King's Speech edited. So we as sympathetic people may say, oh yeah, that's kind of hard that he can't get the words out. But watching it, we're not feeling it. So, but if you go to the one below it, the King's Speech reaction, this is the way it was in the film now, with the reactions in there. And I think you'll find it a lot more moving. So we'll do that now. Stutter reaction. So it's a wholly different story to get all those reactions, to see people turning away and see his wife, you know, just uh, feeling pain. So this is a really important thing. I'm gonna not show you The Martian, but you can go in. The Martian is um, uh, what's the guy's name? Forget his name. Anyway, the actor, he's on Mars. He got skewered by a shrapnel, and he's operating on himself. And the edited version you could watch first, which is it's just kind of bloody, and then you can watch with the reactions, the restored one, which is his pain, and it's, you know, much more devastating. So let me move on from reactions, but that's a really, really crucial thing to always remember. The second you put something in, you think, this is going to be so dramatic. Its buildings are crashing and the plane is just taking off. It's so dramatic. Yeah, but if you're not cutting to somebody going, then it's not dramatic. So make sure you so-called cut to, give the reactions. I just want to show you a quick thing about screenshot sizes. We're going to go to preview. Shot sizes. Let's see. Here it is. So in film, we generally have, here's a little person right there, extreme long shot. We have very long shot, medium long shot, mid shot, medium close-up, big close-up, extreme close-up. That's just the ways that they label shots. Now, when you're writing a screenplay, you don't actually write this. That's something that happens in the shooting script when the script is already sold and the DP, the cinematographer, and the director are talking about the shots. Then they will write it into the script. But before that, as writers, we want to kind of tell people what they're looking at or what they're reading about. We want them to imagine what we want them to see. So one thing I do with my class is have them write something where each line is a new shot. It's a different size. So this is an example of it. Exterior desert day. The dusty string of road slices through the vast wasteland between the desert mountains. If you see a dusty string of road, you know that that's a very long shot. A 60s red Chevy truck bumps over the corrugated dirt. That's a closer thing, but we can tell it's we can see it's a certain kind of truck, so it's a wider shot, but it's closer than the huge one. Bruised knuckles grip the steering wheel, cigarette jammed between two fingers. That's a super extreme close-up of knuckles. Tires skid to a stop. That is a specific shot. Randall squints out through the bug-spattered windshield, drawing deeply on the cig. He exhales slowly. That seems to me like it would be a close-up through the windshield. Worn cowboy boots step from the truck and crunch on the sand. That's that cliche shot that we've seen a million times of boots stepping out of a car or truck. The rattle quivers at the end of a snake's tail. That could be an extreme close-up of just the rattle. The sweat trickles down the back of Randall's neck as he steps away from the coiled snake below him. Then I was trying to write that the camera would be behind Randall, close enough to see his neck. And as he stepped away, we would look down at the coiled snake. Randall's eyes twitch, super close up. His battered hand lifts the pistol from his jeans. Again, we're focused on his hand and the pistol. Sound of gun cocking. Randall grins big, gold teeth gleam. That seems like a very extreme close-up. The gun booms, echoing across the vast landscape. Beside the truck, Randall's tiny figure wavers and collapses. So that's what you want to do, is be able to create the film or the images so that they're different sizes. They're different shot sizes. And I have my students try and write a whole scene, not with dialogue, but like this, so that they can practice writing different screen sizes. Okay, so I want to jump to show, don't tell. We've heard this a billion times, tell. In screenwriting, you're not allowed to go into people's heads. You're only allowed to say what they say on the screen or what their actions are. So we're never allowed to say, so-and-so feels angry. No, you got to show that or have them say, I feel angry. And that would be kind of on the nose. I wouldn't want to do it. So we want to have actions that tell the story. And it's much more interesting. And I believe that we're visual people. And when we're reading books, we're in that world. When we're writing stories, we're in that world. We're creating things that we feel like we're in. And we want to do that for our audiences or our readers. So I want you guys to look at one scene in, let me go back to screen share. In the movie Witness, Witness has a young boy has seen a murder, and he's at the cop station. He's an Amish boy, and he's at the station, and Harrison Ford is trying to have him identify the killer, and you'll see what happens. So go down to Witness Identification, and this is all without dialogue, the whole scene. So that one, we get the whole story. We get the whole identification in a much more interesting way, and all done show, don't tell. There's another one that we won't look at because we don't have time, which is Saving Private Ryan. You can look at it here at another time if you feel like it. It's a great, great show, don't tell episode. I'm gonna jump to the last segment, which is setup and payoff. It's very fun for people have something set up and then have it used again at another time. It doesn't have to be the climax, and it's paid off, and we go, oh yes. Now, I think a good version of that is in Jaws, which is the shark movie, and we see they said, okay, let's kill the shark at the end. That might be a nice thing, conclusion. So should we just shoot it in the head and it dies? No. We got to have a massive wonderful cathartic death. Let's blow it up. How are we going to blow it up? Well, it would be stupid to just carry dynamite with you. Okay, let's figure out something. Well, you're on a ship. Let's have compressed air, because they use that for the tanks of going underwater. That makes sense, but people might not know that that blows up. All right, so how are we going to tell them? We have to set it up. But you want to set it up in a way that people don't go, oh, well, that's going to be coming in handy at the end. You want to set it up by having it be integral to a scene. So they do that in Jaws. They make the chief, Brody, pull a string because he doesn't know the first thing about boating. He pulls the string, the canisters of compressed air fall over, and they go, this is compressed air, you could blow somebody up, you know. And then you got to learn how to not do things that you don't know how to do on a ship. So the scene is about ridiculing Chief Brody. It's about, it has a purpose on its own. This guy is a fish, he's a fish out of water. He's the opposite, a landlubber on the water. So, so that had a scene, a reason for being. And then you could just feel like, oh yeah, that's the conclusion, but then it shows up again. And then the movie Aliens did the same thing. We had a character who is kind of ridiculed and dismissed by the space crew. And she feels like a fifth wheel. She's not respected. She doesn't know what she's doing. They're loading some things using this high-tech, weird, like forklift armor. And she says, well, I could help with that. And then she does it. And you think, oh, wow, she's proven herself. That's so great. And they respect her now. And that's what you think that scene was about, her being respected. Well, so you just dismiss it. And then the only way you're going to kill a fucking huge alien at the end is by her getting into this thing again and being able to whack it. These are also on the Google page if you want to look at Alien. But then there's another one I'll just show you, which is fun for the audience, great fun, or the readers, is when people repeat lines. So let's go to rewrite. This will be the last clip that we'll look at for now. Rewrite, script, feedback. When somebody hears something and then they repeat it to someone else, it's just something that people seem to enjoy, and it works well. So rewrite, script, feedback. Okay, so it's a fun thing to do, to have repeated dialogue that somebody else uses. I'm gonna leave that for now, and hopefully there's enough time for some questions.
Does anyone have any questions for Susan?
I don't have a question, but I want to add to your part about Jaws, the movie. We took the tour of the Jaws movie up in Maine, and the tour guide said when all the people were screaming, horrified, running out of the water because they were screaming Jaws, the water was 32 degrees. So they had to run into the water, and that horrified look was them running out because they were freezing to death. So it made the whole scene look real. So I thought that was fabulous.
Yeah.
Susan, let me ask you, in addition to your screen work, you've written some fiction, some literary fiction, including for magazines like Magazine of SNSF. From your screenwriting background, how did that make your fiction better? What tools did you take from your screenwriter box and apply to your literary fiction?
Well, I think definitely that that talking about reaction, I think it's a huge thing that you need to do, and have, even if it's first person, if you're writing first person, have that person react to things, and hopefully not just in their head, but physically that they do things. I think it's important to write physicality and viscerally in order to say things, as opposed to mentioning emotions like I felt embarrassed. Like that doesn't give me a lot. Just, you can say I felt flushed, my heart started beating, I could hardly swallow, my throat started closing in. I tried not to look at the guy, and that's more visceral than I felt embarrassed. So that's helped me a lot. I think most of the stuff that I chose were things that were specifically that kind of thing that I felt carried over from screenwriting into other kinds of writing.
Frank asks, some of Elmore Leonard's novels that were turned into movies track the dialogue and action from the novel very closely. Any other writers that you feel manage a cinematic feel from the get-go?
I have to turn around and look at my bookshelf. I'd have to think about that. I think Mark Haddon does that somewhat in his books, but he also has been a screenwriter, so maybe that comes through.
I think Andy Weir came close with The Martian. There's a very cinematic element that obviously made its way into the film adaptation. Are there any movies that you would recommend, Susan, as far as strengthening structure of a story? In other words, a movie that like has the structure of a novel that other fiction writers could learn from. Is there anything that comes to mind for you?
Well, I think that novels are different than movies. I think generally movies are short stories, that they work better if they're a short story. I think when you take a novel, very often you have a lot more interweaving things happening, and you don't have the same restrictions that a screenplay may have, which is like kind of sticking to the point for an hour and a half to 2 hours. The new, because of streaming, we have so many new things that are series, that maybe a mini series or a 10 episode, 13 episode series. That I think is much more likely to be able to handle a novel type of story. Most of the movies that I put on the clip, Google Drive, I would totally recommend people seeing. I didn't put in bad movies, except Alien doesn't hold up, believe me. It has a good setup and payoff, but I didn't find the whole movie worked anymore. What else? Structurally, I think a lot of the Spielberg is really great with his stories. I think he understands story greatly.
Are there any books on screenwriting that you would suggest fiction writers read in order to bolster their fiction?
I think
you
that,
mentioned Save the Cat.
Yeah, Save the Cat is a fun story. I think this one, Robert McKee, story, I think that is really good because he talks about just all the different elements of the story, principles of story design, writer at work.
Would you explain who Robert McKee is?
Robert McKee is a script kind of guru. He's a very flashy guy, not flashy. He was in the movie Adaptation, and I show a clip where he's being played by Brian Cox. He curses like nonstop because that's the way he talks. But he's really fun to listen to. I took a class with him as well because he's, such a powerful force in story writing, but he doesn't write his own scripts. He just studies and gives talks.
Does anyone else have any questions for Susan? Anybody? Okay, well, Susan, thank you so very much for joining us this evening. This was absolutely fascinating. I appreciate everything, and hopefully this inspired a lot of people to either be a screenwriter or use these elements in their fiction moving forward. We really do appreciate you joining us this evening. If you'd like to hang with us for a couple minutes, we'd love to have you. This is a part of our meeting where people go around and talk about the really good news that they have to share. So let me turn this over to you guys. Raise your hand if anybody's got some good news to share. Nobody? Oh, wait, Arlene, I see a hand up. Mute yourself, Arlene. Unmute yourself.
Lisa Tomei is doing a meetup on my What It Is to Be a Woman anthology, and several of the women poets are going to be reading their poems from the book. So it'll be October 24th, a Saturday morning from 10 to 12. And
Where?
it'll be, of course, a Zoom affair. So
Okay.
it's very exciting. I haven't done anything like this before.
Who is
Lisa
it with?
Tomei has great ideas.
Who is it with?
Lisa Tomei told me.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
So you guys are doing this together?
She's hosting it.
Okay.
So I'm just kind of the guest on the show.
Awesome. Will you send a link or whatever people need in order to participate?
Yeah, well, yes, the link has been sent out to TAF already, I
Okay.
think.
That's right. We did see.
Excuse me.
You'll get reminders, don't worry, you know how I am. Bug the crap out of y'all.
That's exciting news, and I hope that goes well for all you guys.
Yes.
I was happy to see Drew was at the last gathering, so
Cool.
thanks for coming, Drew.
My pleasure. It was fun. I'm
Anybody
looking forward
else?
to doing it again.
Does anyone
Yes.
else have anything? Drew?
I'm getting ready to release the next volume of Thriving Beyond the Storm, which are stories. It's an anthology of business people's recommendations for other people. Elizabeth Caldwell was in the first one, and yay! So it's on sale at my website, realizationpress.com, and volume 2 will come out on the 7th. The proceeds from that are going to go to the food bank for of North Carolina, of Central and Eastern North Carolina. So if you want to just help somebody out, because I know there are a lot of people that are having a tough time right now, and I wanted to do something. So
That's great. Thank you so much for doing that. Any other questions? Oh, Joel?
Well, this isn't good news. It's just something I wanted to share. If you're looking for a fun ride in a time machine, let me recommend the Library of Congress newspaper collection.
Which collection?
The Library of Congress newspaper collection.
Oh,
loc.gov/chronicling America. And you'll recall a couple of months ago, I saw an article called Just Before the Storm about Raleigh right before the Civil War started. And that's led to a much larger article looking at newspapers all over the country and finding out there's a lot of things going on now that were going on then. There's a lot of things such as the Cherokee Sure Cure for Gonorrhea is advertised widely, along with a story about the first ascent by aerial balloon of a man riding a horse. You just, all kinds of stuff. And you have to search in English because, for instance, I stumbled across the fact that there was a German language newspaper in Goldsboro, North Carolina, for 3 years after the Civil War. And there was something like 1,000 German newspapers published. But if you go and you start reading a particular era and do it 4 or 5 hours a day, after 3 weeks, you think you're there. I mean, I'm really more worried about the election of 1860 now. But I highly recommend it. Also, the Library of Congress has just posted their films and videos from the book festival that was just over. It was Friday, Saturday, Sunday. My wife and I listened in on some of the authors' talks, and they've cataloged them at loc.gov.
Awesome. We appreciate that recommendation, Joel. And for what it's worth, the Library of Congress also possesses the largest comic book collection in the world, which makes me quite envious. Any other good news to share by anybody?
When I sold a sculpture, but that's not writing.
I'm losing some images here. So if anyone, I can't see very well. So if you do have something, just talk.
Mic is off. Sorry about that. The mic is off.
There we go.
I was muted for so long, the mic decided it didn't need to do anything. So this will be available October 9th, and I'll send out a link just to advertise and let people know in case they're interested.
Who's your illustrator?
That's my book. Oh God, it's Galately, Michael Galately. He did the illustration, and Glenn from Hudson Valley Books did the cover.
Awesome. Congratulations on that. And definitely
awesome.
do send us a link.
Okay, thanks.
Anybody else? Again, I'm having vision issues here. So, all right. All right. If there's nothing more, then I think we will conclude this meeting. Again, my thanks to everybody who attended this evening. And again, our thanks to Susan for her participation in a wonderful session. Really do appreciate it. We've recorded this, so we will make it available to the general membership a little bit later. Just a reminder that our October meeting is the last Wednesday of October, and our guest speaker will be graphic novelist Wayne Van Zant. And also in November, we will be having our scheduled TAF talk with David Morrell, the author of First Blood. That's going to be really, really interesting. More to come on both of those. So this concludes this month's meeting. I hope everybody stays safe, stay well, keep writing, and we'll see each other soon. Thank you.